See, now in the green room, Bart, before I brought him up on camera, Bart had like notes. And he's like a news anchor. He's like, he had this stack of notes, and you sit there and, the news anchor at the end of the broadcast, when you stack your scripts together and you put your scripts down to the right. That's what I saw from Bart Keeler, the Soccer for US POD, before I brought him up on camera. I'm debating how to do this. And so I figure what I'll do is I will skip ahead in the story to this moment to start things off.
More chance. Pulisic will send it into that near post. It comes through, and there's the equalizing goal. The U.S. have saved themselves in this Nations League at the death. Well, we talked about that near post. They needed a run at the near post. Miles Robinson, I think this is going to end up being an own goal when it's all said and done, but Miles Robinson beats his player to the near post with a flick on, and it ends up going past Andre Blake. There it is. Michael Hector, who has been outstanding tonight, knew nothing about it. Robinson to flick on, and you can see it there. But it was about getting to that near post and breaking up any chance to clear it.
And so, courtesy of our friends at CBS Sports Paramount Plus and CONCACAF, that was the equalizer at 90 plus 5 and then some that sent us to an extra 30. Haji Wright, who came from an airport in England, hit a plane. His family went one direction, I imagine. He went the other direction, I imagine, and scores to help the United States. Chris Whittingham and Tony Miola on the call. Bart, do you just want to go ahead and do an opening monologue?
I'll just say that we're crediting Miles Robinson with that goal.
Well, I mean, that was initially. Check your settings because you sound like you're in the background. Or boost your volume or something. Boost your volume. Or yell or something. Okay, you're a little better, yeah. So you might have to project a little bit.
I don't know why.
All right, yeah, right there. There it is.
All right, cool. My microphone volume was turned on really low. Sorry. First off, we are crediting Miles Robinson with that goal.
Well,
we do this because when he does, he may not play for Atlanta anymore. So when he does good things, we'll credit him. When he's not doing great things, it's Cincinnati's fault.
There you go.
So that's how this works now. But first about the game itself, it is very disappointing. To be honest, that was a very disappointing game from the U.S. men's national team. It was slow. It was unimaginative. It was, at its best, disjointed.
Mm-hmm.
You saw the worst of what Greg Berhalter ball is, and it is plotting. It is not even methodical because there wasn't thinking. It was just so disheartening to watch this team against a team in Jamaica that they should have beat. I tweeted it out before the game, somewhat sarcastically, but this Jamaica team did not have their best talent on it.
Mm-mm.
The best players, yes, some of them play in similar leagues to the U.S. men's national team. Obviously, you have some championship teams, championship players. You have Bobby D. Cordova-Reed, who's still playing the Premier League, but compare that. They're still using USL championship players,
Romario Williams, come on
down. Atlanta United's own. But they're still using championship and MLS level players to carry them, whereas the U.S. has a bulk of, just so much more immensely talented players. The fact that this game was not well in hand by halftime is a problem. And you can't skate around that. You can relish in the fact that we did win 3-1. You can relish in the fact that you scored 3 goals in the final, 32 minutes, if you will. But the reality is this was a disappointing performance, and a performance that if you want Greg Berhalter to be fired, you can point to this game and say, this is why he should be fired, because it was bad. It was bad. They were set up poorly. They made 0 tactical adjustments to actually fix the problems they were experiencing in the first half. They didn't fix anything during the game. And you got lucky. You got lucky to tie it at the end.
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate here before Maddie hops in, because Maddie.
That we should fire Greg before Mexico. I agree.
All right. So the point that you made has been a universal point, that giving up a goal in the first 30 seconds changes game state without question. I don't know what Joe Scally thought he saw. I don't know what Joe Scally thought he was doing. But he went toward the fire instead of trying to fight the fire off a set piece. He went toward the flames, and the ball ends up. And literally, you look at Scally in the ground level camera. Scally looks to his right, sees who he's supposed to mark, I guess checks distance and proximity. Then he focuses back on the ball coming into the 6, takes 2 steps forward. That creates the space. That creates the header. That creates the goal. When you have a manager for Jamaica that is the former manager of the Icelandic national team, which bored an entire planet to tears with their game plan in the Euros, where basically we're just going to sit here, twiddle our thumbs, maybe trim our nails, watch Shogun and the Richard Hamilton original version, where it's like 9 hours of programming. We're just going to sit here. We're going to do all that stuff. We're going to call up Marta and bring all of the buses from the Laredo garage. I mean, you had anywhere from a line of 5 to a line of 7 or 8. When you have someone who tactically in Helmerson has about as much imagination as Rocky V when it comes to tactics, having a goal scored on you in the first 30 seconds plays right into his hands, because he don't got to do nothing no more. And so it was up to the United States to try to bang on that door as much as they did, and they had opportunities in the first 85 minutes. I will get you this. But it played into Hjalmarsson's hands tactically because of who he is in his DNA. He ground that game to a halt, and scoring a goal 30 seconds in played right into his hands the entire time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'm going to steal a line from Jason Longshore, who's an immensely smarter person than I am when it comes to evaluating soccer. Goals change games, right? That's his line. Goals change games. The problem is Greg Berhalter, as the other coach, then has to adjust. And there were no adjustments. But yeah, like, look, the goal was bad because you had Jedi Robinson loses a 1v1 because he just sticks his leg out to try to stop a throw in that goes to the attacker. Attacker crosses the ball. Scally sees a man who the man he sees first ends up darting to the penalty spot. The guy who scores the goal, Lee, ends up coming. They kind of swap places. So he didn't see that initially. He should. So he kind of gives us a really bad defensive moment there. Then you also have a Matt Turner who was not in good position to save the goal. The header came to him and he hit the ball while he was already back inside the sticks. That's not great. So that's also bad on Matt Turner. And all of this happens in the first, 30 seconds of the game, and the U.S. wasn't prepared. They weren't up for it. And again, this is just something that, as a coach, it's not your fault that a player misses an assignment or a player misses a 1v1, right? That's on the players. However, it is up to the coach. And I've had this problem with, I've said this about a coach that may coach at a club that I support a lot in my local setting. Sometimes it's up to the coach to get the players ready to play, get them literally ready to turn on the switch when that whistle blows to start the game. And this team looked a little, I don't know, not ready. That's just the best way I can describe it. They were passive, and they seemed passive throughout the rest of the game. They were letting Jamaica do things before they made decisions. Pass the ball. Okay, what's Jamaica doing? They weren't doing anything. They were in their block. And furthermore, the thing that annoyed me the most, and this is the biggest tactical adjustment tactical thing that Greg did or doesn't do, all 5 of our highest attackers are all in one line. That's it. So yes, when you're talking about Jamaica being able to drop into a 5 or 7 back, that makes it real easy when all the players that you're attacking are also on one single solitary line. There was no width across the field. It was just at the very top. And you had Musa trying to just pick out passes from the middle. It was terribly set up. And Greg Berhalter made zero adjustments until he got lucky by having Gio Reyna on the bench and got lucky by having Haji Wright on the bench. And I'm sorry, John, you're laughing, but this is bad. You are the United States national soccer team. You have won this tournament twice, and you come out here and you look passive and unsure. And at the same time, if there's one thing you need to take from Mexico, one thing, Mexico plays like the hunter. They play like the hunter. When they have an opportunity to go beat a team, they smack them upside the head. And the U.S. had a chance to go beat a team to pulp last night, a team that didn't have two of their three best players, and everyone else after that is very much a second division player at best. Okay? And you let them dictate the match. Pathetic. Sorry, it is.
No,
that's a terrible mindset to have going into a game.
My smiles and my laughing are about how wound up you are. It is not about the actual content and what you.
I haven't even finished a whole cup of coffee. This is how wound up I'm.
This is what I'm saying. Jarrett's joined us for a fatal four-way. Maddie's next on the queue. Maddie, go.
Well, I think it's fitting that I have my coffee in my Ron Swanson mug to prove my displeasure. No, I mean, listen, I agree with you. I mean, listen, it was a win. We ended up coming into it, but that goal was by pure luck that we managed to do it. We have been banging down the door the entire time, and no one was able to finish. I think the right changes that Berhalter did do was bringing on Gio Reyna and Haji Wright. I think they really made a huge difference, especially Gio in the midfield. With what he was able to create and at least giving us more people forward, he did a great job with that. I think that is great, and I honestly think that Haji Wright and Gio Reyna should be starting against Mexico. They should be, because when they came on, the game opened up. Also, I will say, in discredit, why didn't Aronson come on sooner? Because he was outstanding. He is such a menace in the field, truly. That was the one thing that I was like kind of shaking my head with. I was like, whoa, wait, why you're bringing him on with 10 minutes remaining in the game? I don't know. Well,
so now Maddie and Bart are beside themselves. Bart,
well, one thing to Maddie's point, one thing you saw, especially in extra time, is Aronson basically caused both goals the U.S. scored by his pressure. And what he did was force Jamaica into a bad situation, either a bad pass or a mistouch. And Gio Reyna was also right there to close it down, win the ball back, and then, two great passes to Haji Wright to finish. And that's what I was talking about, is how passive the team was until some of these subs came on. And that's really, really, that's concerning.
Jarrett, for Bart, welcome.
Yeah, so I see everybody's got their is airing their grievances. I'm sorry we don't have the Festivus poll. It's
I know.
it's been put away. As someone who left their tree up past New Year's.
It's not that season.
No, but we can always pretend it is. I guess, what's your expectation for this weekend then? Assuming you don't get a team that decides to go full Iceland against you.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing you've always seen with this U.S. team, especially under Greg, is they do play up to their competition. And when it comes to playing Mexico, they are usually keyed up and ready to play. Mexico looked very confident last night. I know they weren't the typical Mexico they were used to. I mean, they gave up most possessions to Panama. We can talk about the second goal that they got and how it probably was offside. But it was one of those games where they looked like the team that was dictating how this match was going to play. And that's something that, again, when it feels like 87 years into the Greg Berhalter tenured, that we have not fully been able to do that against really good teams. I think Dempsey said on the broadcast last night, the last time this team has looked good is in the World Cup against England. Now, since then, obviously, you had a 3-0 and 2-0 drubbing in the Nations League last summer against Mexico and Canada, which is great. Fantastic. But we need to look like the best team in CONCACAF so that we can go be one of the better teams in the world. And when you look at this, not just even looking at the Mexico game on Sunday, but looking forward to Copa America in June and July, that's not a team that looks like it can compete. And I was very against keeping Greg Berhalter from the beginning, and he has done nothing since to convince me that he should stay on. And I'm sorry.
Well, I don't think you're in for a double negative. I don't think you're in a minority opinion when it comes to, and I mean, there are a lot of us that will stipulate that we are not two-term guys. We are not two-term people when it comes to having coaches and rotations and those kinds of things. Let me ask you about Gio Reyna specifically. And in the, let's see, so he comes in at the half for Joe Scally, understandably so.
Oof, Joe Scally, bless his heart.
Yeah, that's definitely a bless his heart night. So Gio Reyna comes in, and by the 85th minute, he had played more minutes in a weekend for his national team than he has in his entirety for Nuno Espirito Santo at Nottingham Forest. There is somewhere a distinct difference and an explanation as to what is up with Team Gio, and I mean that in both the entourage that is surrounding him and is now a part of his universe, and the element that he is currently in the Premier League, and national team Gio Reyna. And I think that someone or somehow we have to figure out what in the wide world of sports the differences are when it comes to this individual that ended up being a catalyst for his national team in a must-win game in a situation where you're coming from behind and you have the moments that you have versus whatever is going on where he's not getting minutes. He got a new agent. He switched agents. The agent had a relationship and has a relationship with the owner of Nottingham Forest, Evangelinas Marinakis. He knocks on Marinakis' door. Hey, bruh, bring this guy in. And he's brought in, and he has done nothing but sit. 38 minutes in 3 appearances since he walked in the door. There has to be some kind of figuring out here what the difference is between the player Gio Reyna and the national team player Gio Reyna. There's something here that's not computing, and your spidey senses have to go up in a situation like this where you see what happened last night, and then you're going, okay, what's the difference? What the hell's going on, or what's not going on with what's going on in England?
I mean, these are great questions, John, because I think that's been the frustrating part for U.S. men's national team fans is, why is Gio not playing at all for any club? I mean, Dortmund didn't play him. Nottingham didn't play him. Sure, he came into the U.S. men's national team, but he did not start. And you do have to wonder why that was. And, to Maddie's point, Greg sure smartly brought him in. I don't know if it was smart or just the fact that was the obvious choice. He's great at making some obvious choices. But he is a player who is very frustrating to be a fan of because it does seem a little bit like all of his problems are self-inflicted to some degree. And he showed last night why we're so high on his talent and potential. Those 2 passes to Haji Wright didn't seem like super complicated things, but they were fantastic passes. And the fact that he got the weight right on a field that was very bad, the fact that he got he was able to thread it through 2 Jamaican defenders, which is something we weren't able to do all night. We were, I think that was, again, where you see the class of Gio Reyna. And because of that, we got 2 goals in extra time and we won 3-1. And it looks like a better scoreline than it actually was. Yeah,
and I think that's the key here, just because it is a better scoreline than it actually was.
I did predict 3-1 on the podcast earlier this week, but I thought it would be in regular time and we'd be up like 2-0 and Jamaica would get a cheap goal and then we'd just get a third one. But hey, I was still right in that regard. Which is
all right. All right, hang on just a second. This is from Glenn Crooks. This is the first sourcing that we have of this particular piece of information. Crooksy is saying, per source close to the negotiations, pro in the PSRA, have reached a tentative agreement that will likely be put to a vote this weekend. No secondary sourcing on that yet. We'll see what happens, but that's the notes from Glenn Crooks. No reffing down here needed necessarily today, but just wanted to throw that out there with Glenn, that he literally has just posted that as of about 9 minutes ago. So we'll keep an eye on that, see if anybody backs up Crooksy when it comes to what he has on his 280 character app. Maddie Cruz for Bart, go.
Ooh, that's always interesting. New preview. Fun stuff. I also thought that breaking news is about Med Edwards being signed for a short-term agreement. So
it could also apply. So yes,
we'll say that Matt Edwards for Atlanta United 2 was brought up for the first team this weekend. We'll be traveling to Toronto. Yep, that's always fun.
You need those reinforcements. Absolutely true.
Absolutely. I think I'm trying to think of like what to ask that isn't just like, because that game was just absolutely like, I mean, I don't even know words. Horrendous, awful.
Maddie has no words.
Horrendous, awful, chaotic, and that's what it was. Mm-hmm. But I think going into Mexico, Bart mentioned it, we always manage to come into the game when it's a team that we like. We rise to the occasion. Let's just say that. We rise to what that is. With a team like Mexico, with what we saw them against Panama, what are your expectations for that match? How do we combat a team like Mexico when we weren't able to really even get a goal until the last 30 seconds of stoppage time?
Man, this has been a segment with a lot of heavy sighs from Bart this morning.
Yeah, it's just because I think the answers still come down to me of a coach that's willing to make changes and not stick with what he thinks is going to be, because what's the line from Remember the Titans? It's like Novocaine, give it time, it'll always work. Mm-hmm. Well, Greg, you only have 90 minutes. We ain't got time to wait for the Novocaine to kick in or give us more Novocaine. And I think to Maddie's point, like that was, to me, the frustrating part was that it wasn't that it was that it took so long for us to find the equalizer, but it was just because we weren't trying really anything different. And there were, some personnel changes, sure, but the shape stayed the same. There was no fluid movement between players. Players seem to get in their positions, stand there, wait for a pass. And instead of, little tweaks can happen where instead of having all 5 of your attackers on the very back line of the Jamaica, they allowed them to put 27 guys in front of the goal or however many. John, it felt like they were using about
I know. It literally looked like you had this sea of Jamaican jerseys. Yeah.
Is how do you bring players off of that line, right, to force Jamaica to either A, come find and defend you, or B, just give you more space in front of that line to operate. And there was just nothing. So is that a player issue? Maybe, we can call all of our players super dumb. Or you can look at the coach and say, why aren't you instructing them to do things differently? When it was just, Greg Ball doing Greg Ball things.
Jarrett for Bart, go for
it. Look, I mean, I'm just for like the refereeing thing kind of overrode my brain because I don't think we talk enough, and not us, the 4 of us. I don't think we as like a hive mind in this sport in this country talk enough about the fact that they reached that basically the negotiators reached a tentative agreement, sent it for a vote, and it lost by like 98%. Mm-hmm. Don't talk enough about the fact that either they were determined to go into a work stoppage or the negotiators just did not do their job in the most amazing fashion possible. I guess you talked about Reyna, and that's where I wanted to go about it is, Bart, at what point, he's 21 years old now, at what point does somebody get in his ear and tell him, hey, your agent and your parents, you don't have to like never see them again, but maybe for your professional career, separate it from them, because at some point you're going to have to strike out on your own and do this on your own away from them, because right now it just feels very Chernobyl toxic that we're being around them.
Yeah, and I think absolutely the issue was going to Nottingham Forest, which is a not great team right now, but a team that didn't need Gio Reyna. They have talent,
Mm-hmm.
especially at Gio's position.
Yep.
So he was never going to be a starter anyway, unless he like somehow could blow the doors out midway through the season. And that was going to be tough, right? It didn't feel like Nottingham brought him in as this is a game changer piece. And that's where I wonder who is advising him, because surely you could find a club in one of, Netherlands, France, Spain, Italy, who could use a player like Gio, who does make magic happen on the ball. And when he wants to, can be a very good ball recovery player. He's not going to press high and defend all the time, but he can win back balls when he wants to. And those are some things that I think for him, I want to know, is he considering these? And to your point, who's talking to him about it? Because it does seem like he's been given this advice of like, no, you deserve the best or whatever. And, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's something that a mom or dad says to a kid, not an agent saying, well, let's go where you feel, we can feel like you can start right away, or let's go to a place where you can elevate your stock to try to get back to this level. It didn't feel like those were the conversations had for Gio, at least that anyone's had with him recently.
So how different would your starting 11 be for the U.S. men's national team? And by the way, the Bleeding Bomb Pop kit, I actually like the Bleeding Bomb Pop kit.
I did too.
I like it. How different would your starting 11 be for this matchup against Mexico for all of the marbles in Jerry World? How different would your lineup be from the one that was started by 3GB last night?
Well, first off, the big change, obviously, is Sergiño Dest is going to start for Joe Scally. Now, that does not mean that Sergiño Dest would magically have marked those runners on the back post. We don't know that. But Joe Scally won't be starting. So there's one change. I don't think that there's too many changes to start with. I think the biggest one would be Malik sits for Gio if Gio is healthy enough to play 90 minutes. I think the other, Balogun, I think is still your best striker. He's just not in form right now. So do you start Pepe or Wright? That's a great question. I don't know if Balogun's the guy to start against Mexico right now, but we'll see. I would consider those, but I think everything else is pretty similar. I mean, I would even say you stick with Miles and Richards, center back. And obviously, I think Musa and McKinney probably can keep their spots in the midfield. Although if Johnny can go 90 minutes, I would play Johnny. And that was actually something that I do if I can take this in a completely different direction. A decision that I thought Greg actually messed up really badly last night is playing Tyler Adams. At least subbing him in regular time, because
he was on a pitch count.
We knew that he was on a minutes restriction, but also, I'm sorry, I love Tyler Adams as a person and a player, but when you're down a goal, Tyler Adams is not the guy to bring you back from a goal. And I thought you had Johnny on the bench, who is a much better passer than Tyler Adams. And when, at the end there, when Tyler's the guy trying to orchestrate an offense and play quarterback from the back line, that's not where Tyler Adams is good. And I think that was a big miss from Greg. And I think that had you put Johnny on, you would have had another good passer. Also, Musa's a great player, but passing is not his strongest suit. And again, I think Johnny is a better passer from those deeper positions than both of those guys. So I think that was a mistake, because you could have easily, if you're Greg and you're thinking, okay, we tie it and we get a goal, right? That's your obvious thought process is, you do have to look on the positive side of that. Well, then you can take Johnny out and put Tyler on. You know what I'm saying? Because both of them seem to be on minutes restrictions. But I think putting Johnny on first in regular time to be a better passer, be a better connector, be a better offensive tool, because that's what you needed right there. Jamaica was not trying to attack. And if they were going long, and it was just going to be Miles and Chris dealing with it. And Johnny can, go back and help and get the ball after the initial, header or whatever. So I just thought that was a very bad mistake from Greg. That said, the whole Greg Tyler thing, and when he got subbed out, that's Tyler being upset, but Greg having to be a little bit of the adult in the room and say, well, buddy, you can only play this many minutes.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want Andoni Iraola to sit there and buzz me and send me a text. It's like,
exactly.
Bro, you played him for 45, you played him for 39 minutes. I'm mad,
Right. Yeah. And look, I think if you're Tyler, you probably think you can go far longer. That's fine. That's your job as as an athlete. I think maybe if I were Greg, I would have tried to wait till get through the first period of extra time. But it was one of those where I think he was going to be pulled regardless. He wasn't going to play that much. He definitely wasn't going to finish extra time. So I just think it was really a bad decision to bring him on in regulation when Johnny is a better player for the situation we were in. But again, that's Greg Berhalter.
All right. So obviously you're coming back on Monday for your normal visit. Where are you watching things on Sunday?
I'll be at Fido with the American Outlaws. Fido Midtown. Hopefully it's packed. It's a Mexico game. It usually does pack out for those games. We had a full house last night. We had to bring in extra tables and chairs in the back room to fit everyone. So hopefully more on Sunday.
No doubt.
9:15. They can't give us this. They still got to give us these late kickoffs, John. I don't know why CONCACAF hates us so much.
Yeah, I don't know why either. Because if you're at 9:15, then that means that you're kind of monopolizing the East Coast time zones when it comes to your late prime. But I don't know. It started at 8.
I don't know. It's a Sunday, so you didn't. I just, in my opinion, it's a Sunday. So why not start? The early game starts at 6:15, which is 5:15 local. You could have started that one at 4.
Mm-hmm.
And the late game starts at 7, which is a perfect time on a Sunday evening. But CONCACAF doesn't ask me these things. As much as Greg makes stupid decisions, CONCACAF makes even stupider decisions. So.
Victor Montaliani does not have our Bart Keeler on speed dial, and he needs
No,
to.
he doesn't. I don't know. I would solve a lot of problems for him.
Yes, you would. Go ahead and finish your cup of coffee, sir. It was great to have you on, and great to have you fired up as always. Because, like I said, when you post a red pepper emoji on your Twitters, we know that you're going to be slightly elevated in your emotions.
Speaking of,
yes.
I'm mad. We're getting a Nando's here in Atlanta, and Bukayo Saka has a special sauce with Nando's right now in the UK, but unfortunately, it's only through the end of the season, and the Nando's in Atlanta will be opening after that. So I won't get the Bukayo Saka special sauce at Nando's when it opens here.
Well, we got to figure out how to
we got to do a live hit at Nando's. That's what we got to do, John.
Well, that and the Nando's overseas, so you can get your Saka sauce and then
we'll see.
Bring it over. See if they've got it on Amazon. Enjoy your weekend, my friend. Look like just make sure that you finish your second cup of coffee. As always, great to have you on. We'll catch up with you Monday. We'll talk about things, and I know that you'll be mad about some things. I'm fairly certain, but hopefully the U.S. can come out the other side and be.
I'm gonna try to not be mad about my local club team this upcoming weekend. I'm gonna try to not be mad.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's 7 dudes that are not playing. We're getting into that coming up in just a little bit.
Exactly. That's why I'm gonna try to not be mad.
Yeah, there you go. You good, Bart. We'll see you
y'all.
Monday.